Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rakeworth.
And I am Kim Crumley. And together we are Counselor Accents. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. It is bright and early. And
we had a morning meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot about it and slept right through it.
And I don't understand that because it was the last thing we talked about last night. And you said, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I have a very convincing manner about myself where I'm all in and I may just have the toe in. But
let's do it.
My personality. Darn this exuberance.
That's it. When you say let's do it, I'm like, okay, and I planned around it, set 3 alarms so that I would not disappoint you.
I know. And you know what that shows about us? You still are trying to not disappoint because you grew up trying not to disappoint your
parents. And you are like
and
my
now
mother.
I think I'm your mother.
Yeah.
You can't disappoint me. You don't like to disappoint people. You try too hard. That's why this was a whole lesson.
This was an intervention.
It's okay.
And I just want you to realize that if I had missed the appointment, you would be yelling at me. But
I do, and I need to work on that.
Okay.
I do. I can be very critical and angry.
Okay.
Elf. I can be a South Pole elf.
You are a South Pole elf sometimes. I am too. In your defense, I am too.
Oh my gosh, yesterday. I don't know why I became like Barbara Streisand. Oh my gosh, yesterday. You were so ill.
I don't recall being ill yesterday. I think you thought I was ill.
No. I know you better than you know yourself. The nuances in your voice. But you have to admit, there are times when you're just downright thyroid on me.
Oh, yes. Yes, for sure.
That's the only
yesterday was not one of those days.
What?
I will own it. I will own it when it is that. That wasn't it.
You don't own it in that moment.
Well, I'm past the moment. It was yesterday.
When you're past, we'll look back and I'll go, oh my gosh. I have post-trauma thinking about us sitting there going through data one day. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
That could have been the data. Like that could have been. I don't remember that.
No, it was like the whole school system. We were meeting. We were working.
I still feel that way about that.
It was
and it wasn't
horrible.
It wasn't
oh my gosh.
It wasn't our school system. It was the program that we were using. I'm like, this is the 21st century. It is the 21st century, isn't it?
You're historical.
But I'm like,
historical facts kill me.
I'm like, why in the world are we having to data entry this like we're the
I don't know what the Alabama. That's the way we do it. We had a purple crayon.
Yeah,
and we had a piece of construction paper and we were writing data down.
But it wasn't our school system. Like everybody in the nation,
it wasn't.
That was using this program was having to do data entry by hand, and I'm like,
allegedly.
Yeah. Oh, so aside from you bringing up the trauma of that day that we had to do data entry, how has your break been? That is a loaded question because I have something I want to talk about.
I know that you do. Well, as you know, I have a little fellow with disabilities. I'm not pulling heartstrings here, but it is true. So just about every Christmas break is chock full of appointments. And as I told you, one appointment was an EEG in Birmingham, which is like an hour and a half away. Drove there, wrong day. Had to go back the next day.
Look at my shocked face. Look at my shocked face.
Shut it. And so drove back the next day and went and ate at a popular, very good restaurant and that I will not mention because I can't say it without getting sick and got food poisoning. So I will say that one appointment took out 3 days. So how was my break? Well, chock full of doctor's appointments, but hashtag blessed. I'm pitiful, but blessed.
Right.
No, it
Well-
was good. It was really, really good. My son is getting more, he's getting better, and so I'm better.
Well, he just came in the room and he actually spoke to me, asked about my mama and them, and
I
was
know.
very cordial.
Mama
And
Nan.
that's new, different.
That is
That's back
that
to
has
normal.
he has come a long way. So
Yeah.
he's come a long way. I have learned a lot about over the last 2 years about how to deal with children who are on medication and getting medication correct over what we've been through with Clanton over the last 2 years. I have used that, just you can just see I have a whole lot more empathy and understanding and I can, relate to, and so much of this we know as school counselors, when kids are acting out, we know there's that underlying reason, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I want to hear about your wonderful spring break, and I will jump through this screen and kill you if you don't tell me it was wonderful.
Wonderful. It was wonderful. Well, it all started on the day that we got out of school. And there is a really nice hotel in Birmingham that you and I love, and they give educator rates. And so we went and stayed at that hotel on the first night that we got out for Christmas break.
Yeah.
And just finished up our shopping and everything. And it was a great day. And I just want to go ahead and issue a disclaimer. This happened before your food poisoning incident. This happened first.
I'm sorry I stole your thunder.
You stole it. But we ate at an establishment that I also cannot stomach to name. Like, I just can't even. We ate there, and as I was eating it, it was the best meal.
Oh, absolutely. You don't know you're getting food poisoning.
No, gosh, in the moment. Let me say this, food poisoning on the front end tastes fantastic. Like the best meal you could have. And I kept offering it to my husband. I was like, don't you want a bite of this? It's so good. And I had butter dripping down my arms. It was so good. And then about an hour later, I thought, I don't feel right. 3 hours later, it is like, oh my gosh. For the next 24 hours.
Yes, I know.
It was awful.
You were texting me going, someone needs to call an ambulance. And
I did.
Clearly no one was going to call an ambulance.
I did beg my husband to take me to the hospital at hour 20 into this. I said, I really need to go to the hospital. I had nurse friends on the phone that said they were preparing the emergency room for me. They said I needed to go to the hospital. But we had a snowstorm coming in. And
when we say snowstorm, please know that we did not have one follicle of snowfall, but to us it was a snowstorm because it was 3 degrees.
Okay, we really did have an inch up here.
Really?
We really did. Yes, we really did.
Okay.
So
I didn't know y'all had an inch. We had zippity doo dah.
I'll have to send you pictures. We had 1 inch of snow, and he knew that it was coming in within 2 hours. And you never know what you're going to get at the emergency room. I would think that food poisoning would not be at the top of the emergency list.
It wouldn't.
So there's a chance that we would be there for several hours as they are, I don't know, sewing hands and whatnot back on.
Clearly people are flying all over with this 1 inch of snow.
Right. I just needed a little intravenous fluids because I could not
hold anything down.
Not even a teaspoon.
South or North poles.
That's
all systems were
flowing.
That
is enough. That's enough. So anyway, it was terrible. It was awful.
Well, I am still dehydrated. And
I was going to tell you, you need to go get some liquid IV.
I drank some liquid IV, liquid IV yesterday. And I think this is important for people to know. After you've been sick, if your pee is cloudy, you're dehydrated. Did you know that?
I just feel like we took this podcast to another level, and now we can classify it under
I'm
medical.
trying to help people. That is my only goal, and I'm still dehydrated.
Okay. Well,
I may
please
look fabulous.
keep us.
I
Would you
didn't
please?
feel sorry for you enough. I want to tell you that. But
You
then you
don't
hightailed it to
until.
Dolly.
Oh gosh, that's a whole other story. But you really have to go through something like this to appreciate what it is. Like I can tell you, and you can see it when you tell people I had food poisoning, and they're like, "Oh gosh, oh geesh, ah." But until you actually have your head in the toilet for 24 hours, you do not appreciate.
You can't. And I appreciated it afterwards.
And I think that's why you got it, honestly, so that you
I
could
think it
appreciate
was.
what I had
And all I
gone through.
could say was say, thank you, Lord, that I got food poisoning so I could identify.
So, but I was able to be your guide through it. And I was like, okay, how
Yes,
many
you
hours
were.
are you into this? Okay, brace for impact because at hour 16, you're going to go through this.
You
And
did. And you were so right because I'd get all jocular and funny with it. I'm texting you like, oh, I'm bit, la 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 funnies. And then it would circle back around. There I am again.
here you are.
Moving right along to something else that I did over this break was I read a book. And not that that's unusual because I read all the time, but it's one that you had recommended. And tell us a little bit about that recommendation that you made to me.
Well, let me say this. We are tardy to the party, as we often are, but I don't generally like to jump on bandwagons. So a couple of years ago, everyone was talking about this book, and I thought, I'm not reading it. Everybody's talking about it. I'm going to go out and find a book, and I'm going to start my own bandwagon. I'm not going to jump on this. So I've had it sitting in my like book library, whatever, for a long time. And I can't even remember what made me start. I actually listened to the audio book. I can't remember what made me start listening to it. I think I was cleaning the house and had nothing better to do. So I started it. And I'm telling you, the very first paragraph of the first chapter, I was hooked. And so the book is The Deepest Well, which many of you are probably like, what? I read that 25 years ago. Yes. And thank you for trying to tell us to read it. I'm sorry that I was hard headed, as I often am. But, whew. So I told you immediately, like I was on the first page and I called you, oh my gosh, you've got to read this book. You dragged your feet a little bit on reading it.
I did drag my feet on reading The Deepest Well. And once I started, I couldn't stop. And so I listened to it on audio, which was Audible, which was very pleasant. And they did a good job with reading it, and it was very enjoyable. But the book content is amazing. You're right. It just captures you from the very beginning because the author, it's stuff that we know, but she's putting it in stories like this happened. And I was listening to this and I thought, this is so important for educators to know. It is, to me, how can we teach kids until we understand what's happening in their brains?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it just makes sense whenever you are reading her words, and she's coming at it from the medical standpoint because she's a doctor, like a physician doctor. And so in the book, she was noticing in her practice the same things that we see in the schools. And she was able to take the medical side of it and couple it with the behavior part of it, or the, I don't know, some of those physical side effects that we see or that we know of trauma. She was seeing those things and it wasn't making sense. And once she really dove into it and dug into it, it kind of answers some of our questions that we have as educators. And so I do think that this book should be required reading for educators, like you were saying. I mean, it just makes sense. It's kind of the why behind some of those behaviors that we can't explain. Everybody's scratching their heads and saying, gosh, everything is increased. And we're seeing so many of the same behaviors across the nation. Why? Well, there may be some answers within this book.
So that's not going to be our topic today.
No.
Our topic is going to be New Year's and goals for the New Year's. But I don't even know if we'd say goals for the New Year's. But when I was listening to the book, she references these components that are needed for that healthy, thriving child or adult. And so I took those and I thought these are things that we as educators need to work on within ourselves and then possibly help pass that on to our students. So that's kind of where we're going to look at today is these 6 factors that she talks about. And it's nothing new, but it's maybe worth repeating and thinking about how we can start a New Year's. I know we make resolutions that maybe don't last, but these are things that are just important for your overall health.
Well, I am curious. As we were sitting here, I was wondering this. Do you have New Year's resolutions for yourself?
I try not to make a big deal out of it being a resolution, but I think these 6 things, once I heard this, I thought
Uh-huh.
these are some things that really, I told you yesterday that I had a quote that I had written down, and it's a habit. You can't change a habit without a why.
Mhm.
Why am I doing this? And so I think these are things that I'm going to work on, these things that we're going to talk about today. But I don't really know that I have made any, I think we all in our minds think, but it goes back to these 6 things that we're going to talk about, being healthier.
Yeah. I don't really do resolutions either, but I've been thinking a lot about a story that you and I know, and that is, and I haven't brushed up on it, but I know the principle of it. Um, the coach of the French bicycle team, and
Yes.
we've used this as
Yes.
we've spoken, and he focused on making everything 1% better. And, he made those small changes to things like the French bicycle team was like the worst ever for like decades and decades. They had not won any of those Tour de France or whatever the bicycle championships are. And it was an embarrassment. Like even French bicycle companies did not want to sell bicycles to this French team representing them in the Olympics and stuff like that because they were kind of an embarrassment. And so this man came in to coach them, and it was a job that, like, who in the world would want to do this job? But he looked at those small changes instead of improving overall time and focusing on speed or focusing on endurance, things like that. He looked at small changes that could be made, like let's make the seats more comfortable. Let's change the fabric of the outfits that we wear. Let's, I don't know, change the rubber on the tires. And those small changes are what led to huge, significant overall gains. And it's just that principle of 1%. So if you can be 1% better today than you were yesterday, 1% better tomorrow than you were today, then think of where we'll be this time next year.
That's it. Right there is the whole
And we're
podcast.
done.
That story and the 1% better. And I shared that with our faculty at the beginning of the school year. So
Yeah.
now that you've said that, that would be worth
Going back to
here in the mid-year repeating and saying, where are we at in that 1%, just the 1% better. I love that story.
Okay.
And I think on these 6 things, when you talk about it, if you don't let that overwhelm you, but do 1%, just 1%.
Yeah.
And I think this is very timely in light of a lot of educators are just walking out.
Yeah.
School counselors are overwhelmed. So, we're the people who are trying, we're the ones who run in and try to fix and save. And so I think it can take its toll. So we're going to start with these 6 things.
Okay.
And the first one that we're going to talk about, and this is the order I think that she mentions them in the book, is sleep and how important sleep is for our bodies to recover.
Yeah.
We're designed to have sleep so that we can recover and go again. So, we're told, what is it, 6 to 8 hours?
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to get 12 hours of sleep every day.
Yeah. You do a really good job
I
at
think that's
getting
a
your
check.
sleep.
That's
That is
nothing
a
I have
check
to
for
work
you.
on. How
For
about you?
me, I have every intention. I'm better than I used to be, but this brain is so active at nighttime. It is so hard to turn it off at night. That's when I do my best thinking. So it's really hard to say, okay,
And here's a little trick that I have heard for those people who do that. I think with a lot of folks that rings true is that maybe you even go to sleep and then you wake up and the brain is racing. But I have heard, like, have a little paper and pencil beside the bed, and before you go to bed, just jot down anything that you think may be bothering you and put it down. And it's like you're saying, okay, I'm going to put this in the drawer and I'm not going to pick it up. And you've put all your thoughts or maybe things that you know are rolling around in your brain, and you put it up and you close the door, and it kind of maybe tricks the brain and I don't have to wake up and figure this out during the middle of the night. And it's funny, those things that we chew on all night long, when we wake up, we're like, that really wasn't that big a deal. Why was I chewing on that all night long?
yeah. And that's not really, and that is for some people, that's what their brain does. Mine is like, that's nighttime is when my creative juices are flowing. And so, like, I'll be in the middle of some kind of creative process, and to think, I'll think, oh, if I just keep going, then I can finish this. But it just keeps going. And I think too, like having younger children, when I put them to bed, it is like just that there's that small window of time where
Absolutely.
they're not awake and I can just kind of sit there, because from the minute I wake up in the mornings, it is just like everybody. I mean, you're on go
Yeah.
100%. You wake up, you exercise, you do all the things, and it's like, when is there a minute?
To think.
Just, yeah. And
And we're
that
going
is
to
my,
talk about that too. I think those are really good points.
mhm,
So if you're thinking on that 1% concept, every that creativity is important,
mhm,
but that sleep, I
yeah,
think after a while that will get you. We went
yeah.
through a period where I didn't sleep because of my child. He couldn't sleep. And oh my gosh, it ages you. It depresses you. It's just very difficult to recoup. Okay, moving along, exercise. You are more in the habit of that than I am. I like to pay for a gym and not
Yeah.
go to it. I like to pay for Beachbody and not use it. I like to pay for Noom and not use it. So that is kind of the joke around our house is, how many gym uh, subscriptions or whatever you call that can I have and not use? So I am not in the habit of that, and I'm going to have to, because it's so good for your body, and not even thinking about your how you look. That's my problem, is I just look great without having to exercise, Laura.
And that is such a blessing and a curse.
Darn this teenage body. It is a curse. I'm thinking, God, I'm healthy. Look at me. I'm so fit. No, you can't live off of cupcakes and Twinkies and ding dongs and never exercise and be healthy. But that is that 1% better. What can I do? Can I walk? Can I, that's just hard to fit in.
Yeah.
But so important for the mind and body.
Yes. I wake up crazy early to try to fit it all in. And, even just doing 10 minutes a day is good for you. If that's 1% better than what you did yesterday, then you're making an improvement, and it's somewhere to
Yeah.
start. Just getting started.
Absolutely. And now that yoga's legal in Alabama,
And that's true. But it's true.
that is a true story.
We're not joking.
That is something that kind of brings in some of these other things like the relaxation, and it's that is where I'm wanting to start with my beach body. I think that's what I'm going to do. Mainly because
I do use Beachbody because I can't leave, leaving my house thinking of like trying to pack up and go somewhere else. I've got to do it first thing in the morning or it doesn't get done.
Absolutely.
And so I don't want to be leaving my house at 3:30 to drive somewhere to get a workout in. So I do work out in my house with Beachbody, and it's worked for me. So
clearly, look at that Beachbody.
Look at this. This is food poisoning body. That's what this is. I was able to fit into my pants today because thank you, food poisoning.
4 pounds, Laura.
Yeah,
4 pounds,
I believe
baby.
It. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, argh. Nutrition is the next, and I'm going to say the only way I can beat this one is just stop hanging out with you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Fair enough. And your beef jerky sticks. So nutrition, we know, and this all goes back to just that healthy mind body connection. It is so hard. Please don't throw rocks at me, people from the South, but it is, I don't even think we realize how bad we eat. I do know that people that visit go, my goodness, you people eat so badly. Eat a lot of vegetables, but they are cooked in grease and fried.
Yeah.
Fried okra, fried squash. Nutrition is really important, and I really wish I knew more about how to incorporate that in an easier way. Other than don't go through the middle of the grocery store, skim the outsides of the grocery store. And to eat healthy, it costs more money. It really does. And that's, I think, why we see so many of our students who have nutritional needs. We're not talking about weight. People confuse that. So nutrition.
Yeah. I listened to a book recently by, his name is Dr. Livinggood. Like, that is for real his name. Like, it was not legally changed. That was his name. Anyway, his eyes were kind of opened as he was in medical school. His eyes were open when his dad had a heart attack, and it kind of changed the way that he saw food and exercise and stuff like that. So he shares his principles through his book, and it was an eye-opener for me of just some of the things that we eat that, like, you think they're good for you, but then they're really not. And so we've made a few changes here and there, just thinking about my girls, like, goodness gracious, the things that are added in food that you don't realize. Yeah. So we've made a lot of changes.
Absolutely. But you think about those students that we're dealing with every day who they're not getting the nutrition that they need. And we give them that complete.
We give them the weekend food bags with every starch and sugar and preservative known to man.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is relationships and how important that is to the overall health. We know in students that one person, one healthy relationship for a student, what a difference that can make. And that's why we may be the only positive relationship in that child's life as a school when they come to the school. So we know, we can see that. But even ourselves having those friendships and relationships that help us grow and that we can vent. We say all the time, go out and find yourself a friend, have other school counselor that you can talk to, that you can vent to, have a mentor, as I feel like I am your mentor, Laura.
And I feel like I'm yours, so that works out.
Oh, geez. Well, we've been confused this whole time. No wonder we're always trying to But think about it with ourselves, how our relationship has helped us.
Yeah.
You know that when you and I became friends, I was really struggling because of just the enormity of the job that I was in. And you really helped me. Um, just the laughter and having somebody to talk to that can understand what I'm doing and the relationship that we have makes perfect sense, right?
Well, and I was in a tough spot too, and it's all about perspective. When you have the book right up to your face, you can't read the words, but when you've got somebody else that can see where you are and say, "Get it together."
Now I'm going to go back to, and this is so big. So I feel like all these other things kind of go back to just the mental health. So what would you say when I say, how do we work on that for this next year? Mental health. I felt like all these other things are kind of under that,
Yeah.
but it's listed as one.
I think it's just like my mind goes to, and I hate to say it because, especially this time of year, there's so much pressure to be better and do better that you can get caught in a trap of feeling like you don't measure up and that you haven't done enough. You look back at the previous year and you think, okay, I'm going to do better and I'm going to make improvements, which makes it seem like you failed. But that's not the case. And I think it goes back to that 1% principle. We're not saying that we failed last year. We're just saying we're going to be even better this year. And I think the mental health part of it is an umbrella, like you said, where all these other things fit into it. But what is best for your mental health? For me, it's laughing. And so maybe it is, purposing in your heart that you're going to find a podcast that makes you laugh and try to listen to it each day. Or maybe it's, taking 10 minutes. Even I tell my students sometimes that laughing is one of those things that tricks your brain. So even taking some time and laughing when you're on the way to school, it tricks your brain into thinking you're happy. Your brain can't tell if it's fake laughter or real laughter. And so just starting the day with some laughter. I don't know.
Is that true?
It is true. It is true. It fires off those same.
I was fake laughing.
Okay. Well, your brain
I'm
can't
fake
tell.
laughing at you all the time. So that's tricking my brain and you.
Yeah.
It's double. Yeah, I think it's like physician, heal thyself. If we are not mentally healthy, it's really hard for us to help other students. So this stuff is not just fluff. This stuff is important for us to get right before we can help students get it right.
And I think too, professional development, getting 1% better at your job and your knowledge and what you know. I talked to somebody this past week and they said, I don't feel like I am qualified. I said, nobody ever does. We all feel that way. I said, it's called imposter syndrome and we all suffer from it because all of a sudden you've got a big girl job or a big boy job and you're responsible for other people. There is a lot of pressure that comes with that. None of us will ever feel qualified. And that means you are taking it seriously. And, that's exactly how you should feel, I guess, when you have a job of this enormity. But the thing is, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you are seeking to get better. Not that we
Yeah.
are making you better at all, but you're interested in your job,
Career.
your role. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you are the type of person that is seeking to become better.
So true. And I think that one of the things that you and I are preparing to speak in Georgia is on that creative element of our mental health and how, as educators, looking to see who are you? What do you enjoy? What are you attracted to? And bringing that alongside what you do in your job. So we'll be talking about that more, but I think that's huge in your happiness and your mental health.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the last one, which is mindfulness.
Which
And
is illegal in Alabama. And that's true. We're not
in
making
no
that up.
way can you be present in any moment in Alabama.
You cannot. Well, it's guided imagery, I guess, that is illegal in Alabama.
Yeah, that was a real laugh. That was a real laugh. That is so funny. Yes. And we are the demons that are taking out this yoga and mindfulness to students. But it's so true to just be present in the moment. I think so many times as school counselors, our educators are just living in today's world. We are seeing when life should be so much easier when you think about the amount of what we have at our hands to do our jobs for us. I mean, just with the technology that's out there that will do so much of our work that we used to have to do manually, you would think that we would. It's just the more that we have taken off of us, the more that we're adding, and our brains are always 3 steps ahead of I've got to do this, I've got to do this, and we're not really present in that moment. And I think getting 1% better every day, just to be, this is what I'm doing right now, and I'm putting everything else aside, and I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to work on that. I'm going to be present right now.
Well, and
I think that's so important.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about just anxiety and worry. I've been hearing so many people, it seems like over the break, so many people have talked to me about their level of anxiety or their level of stress or whatever.
It's unreal.
And I've just been thinking about that and like, goodness gracious, we're seeing such an increase in young people that are feeling this way and, just everybody. But it goes back to what you just said. And you've been saying this for years, but our brains were not built to process the amount of information that we take in daily. And you've said before, a quote that you heard by, I believe it was Dr. James Dobson. He said, we get more information in one day than people used to get in a lifetime. And when you think about like the constant and instant access to information that we have on our phones, the relationship, like the conversations that we have with people, my goodness, people used to go a week without talking to certain loved ones, but it's instant for us. We're able to talk to them immediately. We don't have to wait until the long distance rates are cheaper or whatever. So we're having more conversations. We are doing more things and we have more access to information. So things that are supposed to make our life easier, like you just said, are they adding to our level of anxiety as we try to balance everything? So I think mindfulness and just being aware of where you are in the moment, what are you working on, and be 100% on that task and just let those other things fade away for 5 minutes as you focus on that task. I don't know, maybe we'll start to see our anxiety levels drop.
And, I think we have this because of that the Pinterest and the Instagrams and this level of perfection that we feel like we have to meet. So there's this level of perfection that I think this younger generation who are now coming into adulthood, that's all they know is this perfect image, and nobody's ever going to meet that. And I see families, young families that are so, you'll be on vacation at the beach or wherever, and they're so concerned about the image that they're missing the child or they're missing the moment because they're trying to get that perfect shot or that, and
then that leads us to the question, are you focusing on being 1% better than you were? Or are you focusing on trying to match what you believe somebody else is doing? Because if that's the case,
is so good.
Then you are chasing something, you're chasing an illusion because that may not even be accurate. there's a whole
Absolutely.
conversation there that we could have. But
And
years.
unfortunately, our Mary, our person that helps us, our assistant, God love her, she wishes would be a little bit more like that. We're just,
True.
as my grandma used to say, we ain't turned that way. That we want to create. Well, I couldn't anyway. I mean,
we need to ask Mary, what do you want our resolutions to be this year? Mary,
we need to say, Mary, what can we do to be better?
Mary is, I told her she is the best thing that has happened to us. Mary, I don't know what we would do without you. I don't know where we'd be without you.
I know.
I don't know. She's probably thinking of
quitting.
She
has nothing to work with.
She's probably thinking of quitting, and now this is going to make her feel like she has
That's the only reason I said anything about you, Mary. But, this is, who cares? That's what we say to one another. Who cares? Be you. Who cares what, as long as you're not mean. I'm just saying being kind and who cares what?
Well,
if I meet this image.
Somebody very close to me, not you, a couple of years ago, said that she lives by the motto, I want those who know me best to love me most. And I think, gosh, that's so true. If I am doing all this to make it look like I've got a perfect life or whatever, like at the end of it all, I want my girls, I want my family to be able to say, like, I don't know.
I think that's perfectly said.
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Enjoy. So it goes back to that mindfulness. Quit trying to be something that we're not. Because nobody is. That's an illusion, and I think that's important for students to know. But anyway, we're talking about ourselves as educator. These are things that we want for students, but we first need to position heal thyself. We need to get these within ourselves. 1% better every day. So sleep, mental health, exercise, nutrition, relationships, and mindfulness. That's a big, long list.
Yeah.
But they're also important. How do we leave one off?
Agreed.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. You can follow us on all the places. Instagram, Facebook. You can watch these on YouTube most of the time. And anything else? Is that it? I always ask you.
You always do. And it's a good thing that you do. I think you covered it all. We've got a very, very busy speaking engagement coming up. So we will let you know all of those things.
If you live in Georgia, if you live anywhere close to Cobb County, Georgia, then I'm sure that they would love for you to attend their conference that's coming up in February. So check that out, Cobb County, Georgia. We are going to be keynoting that and running a session in the afternoon. So check it out because we would love to meet you.
Yes, and we have some other very exciting things going on in the next 2 or 3 months. So that's the only thing. That's as far as I can think ahead.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But yes, like us, whatever you always say.
Okay.
Yeah.